Do you want to learn the best way to retrieve a Ned Rig? This video is for you.
Welcome back to another episode of 5-Minute Fish Talk.
It's Friday morning, we're drinking coffee, we're talking Ned Rigs. It's going to be a wonderful day, folks. Here's the thing, this episode's going to be so dang juicy that we had to make it a double 5-Minute Fish Talk. That's right, welcome to the first ever episode of 10-Minute Fish Talk. I've got 10 minutes loaded on this timer here, and you know what that means. Boop, it's time to get real. Here's the thing, we're talking about Ned Rigs, and you know I love the Ned Rig. You've seen me catch hundreds of fish on the thing.
Ned Rig.
I've been using it for several years, and I've caught thousands of fish on this little rig. Now, where did I learn it from? I actually learned it from numerous Kansas anglers, one of which is named Ned Kehde. Now, Ned Kehde is obviously who this bait is named after, and so he's really a pioneer in the finesse fishing game. He's not going to take all the credit for the rig, but ultimately it's named after him, so that goes to show just how much of an influence he was on the making of the Ned Rig. Now, he's got 6 different techniques that he likes to use to retrieve a Ned Rig, and throughout this video we're going to go through each and every one. I'm going to try to overlay some video content of me using it so that way you can kind of see it, but aside from that I'm going to actually use this little ice fishing rod to try to demonstrate as well. I'm going to go through each and every one of the retrieves, and then at the end I'm going to share some of my own personal thoughts on the rig and how you can make it your own to catch more fish. If you feel like you still need more information at the end of this video, I'm going to leave some other videos linked in the description so that way you can check those out as well. Regardless, enough chit chat, let's get right into it. Let's talk about number 1. The number 1 retrieve is the swim, glide, and shake. Essentially, what you're going to want to do is you're going to cast your bait out there. You're going to shake your rod tip just lightly. It's nothing too aggressive. Just shake your rod tip a little bit, get the line moving, and as it falls to the bottom. Once it hits the bottom, you actually just start reeling a little bit. And then as you reel it, you keep it about 6 to 12 inches off the bottom, and then you stop, and that's when it glides to the bottom. You can actually shake if you'd like. You can shake your rod tip to kind of move the bait a little bit as it goes to the bottom, but then you'll pick it up and do it again. So it's essentially you swim it, you glide it, you shake it, you swim it, you glide it, you shake it, hence the name. Now here's the thing, you can use any type of bait with this. I think that the Finesse TRD is always going to be a clutch bait for any of these, but I would say something like a little swim bait or something that looks like a little shad or some type of little bait fish is obviously a good one for this one because of the swimming motion. But again, you just use whatever you're comfortable with. Now let's get to number 2. Number 2, folks, the hop and bounce retrieve. Just like the first one, you're going to go ahead and cast it out there and you're going to shake it as it falls. Now once it gets to the bottom, this is where it changes. You really can hop it, and he likes to hop it by just doing 2 reel turns. So it'll bounce up, and so if you do them quick, it'll bounce up and then it'll go back to the bottom. Now if you want, you can shake the bait as it falls, so it's the hop and bounce, so it can just keep bouncing, or you can hop it and shake it. Again, these sound like they're very, very similar, but once you get out there on the water, you're going to see that it can be very different. And if you were to do it in like a swimming pool or something, you would see just how different these are. Now, again, you can use any bait, but I would say like a great demonstration for this one would be actually the TRD craws, because the crawfish a lot of times will scoot in short little dashes across the bottom. So a hop and bounce, if you reel it real quick, it'll come up and it'll go back down. It'll come up and go back down. And that'll be a great retrieve for the TRD craws. Okay, next one, the drag and dead stick. And I personally love this retrieve. You know what's funny is he actually mentions that he likes this retrieve a lot of times out of the back of the boat. So let's say if you have 2 anglers in the boat, one's in the front, one's in the back. A lot of times the guy in the back of the boat can cast it, actually behind the boat and essentially just let it free spool for a little while and just drag it and dead stick it and just really not do a lot. It's really a do nothing retrieve, and the fish will still go crazy for the thing. But essentially, you cast it to the shoreline, you shake on the fall, and then you drag. So you cast it out there, same as every other retrieve essentially. You're going to always shake the bait as it falls to the bottom, and then you can just slow drag it. I just tend to keep my line kind of taut as I do that. I don't keep it all the way straight, because what you're going to end up doing then is you're going to be pulling the bait. But if you keep it pretty close with just a hair of slack in there, the bait's going to be able to kind of drift and do its own thing down there, and the fish will go nuts for it. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's move on to the next one. Now, I have to keep notes, okay, folks? I have to keep notes because there's so much information, hence the 10-minute fish talk. Regardless, number 4 is a straight swim. Yeah, that one's a little bit easier to understand. Essentially, this is when you cast it out and you straight swim it back. Now, where he actually likes to do this a lot of times is around windy banks and around vegetation. Let's say you got vegetation growing up off the bottom about 2 feet. Well, you're not going to be able to drag and dead stick it through that, but you would be able to just kind of straight swim it across the top of that. What that's going to do is get those active fish to come out and slam it. Now, a little type of swim bait or something like that is obviously going to be a great bait for this. Curly tail grubs, anything with just a little bit of action. Now, you obviously can still do it with a finesse TRD. It's not going to give you the same type of action, and that's where I would actually go ahead and add some twitches into it. So, let's talk about number 5, the drag and shake. Drag and shake, baby. Drag and shake. All you do is you cast it out there. You let it sink to the bottom. If you want, you can add some shakes. You don't have to. And then you reel it in extra slow to essentially have it crawling across the bottom, and then you're going to go ahead and twitch it as you're reeling. So this is the one that you probably actually see me use most often, because I am so dang impatient that I like to be doing something at all times, so I like to be reeling almost at all times, and then I'll just twitch it. I keep my rod at a downward angle. Not everybody does that, but I just kind of keep it at a downward angle, and that way the jig head's really hitting the rocks and bouncing against things and making some noise down there. Fish go nuts for it. You can always pause it. This is how you start to make it your own, but essentially the drag and shake is to just slow reel it across the bottom and to twitch it a little bit. Now, the last retrieve is a very unconventional retrieve, and this is one that I personally don't use a whole lot. You can definitely use it in a kayak, you can use it in a boat, whatever, but it's strolling. Essentially, he likes to do it on large, flats and expansive areas where it's like, you're trying to cover a lot of water, but essentially you just cast it out there, you let it drift, and you can kind of keep the bait moving by using the trolling motor. Now, that's, again, very different. You can definitely do this in a kayak. Let's say it's super, super windy, but you've got a group of active fish and maybe over a big grass pile or something like that. You could cast the bait out there and you could kind of set it up on your rod holder and you could paddle around just to keep your position. The fish will still eat it if it's just drifting around down there, because it's still going to look so natural, and that's really the beauty of this bait. So, regardless, you've got 6 different retrieves here, and I think you'll see that all of them are very different, but they're very, very similar. And again, there's so many different types of baits you can use. You could use like a finesse shads, you can use the TRD, you can use hundreds of different baits. Z-Man makes all sorts of great ones, and that's what I tend to use. But essentially what I like to do to dumb this thing down is I really think that you just need to make it your own. And personally, I don't know that I necessarily use any one retrieve when I'm out there. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll cast it out there, I'll shake it on the bottom, let it hit the bottom, and then I'll start reeling it and twitching it, and then I'll just drop it, dead stick it for a while. I kind of impart almost all of these to a degree. I don't use the strolling one a lot, but a lot of times I really use all 5 in one cast. But I think what's going to help you is to try to use each and every one of these on their own first, and then once you use them on their own, you'll start to learn what you like best and be able to cater it to the fish in your area. Okay, we didn't go 10 minutes, but we definitely went more than 5. Here's the thing, I could talk about the Ned Rig for hours, but I really just wanted to hone in and share those retrieves with you. If you want more information, like I said, I'm going to put some other videos in the description below and you can check those out. Otherwise, you know what I'm going to say next, right? Have yourself a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you next time.